Welcome to Real Herbalism Radio, show 262, recorded at Big Dog Studios in Eugene, Oregon. This show is made possible by Sacred Blossom Farm. Makes tea time delightful with herbal teas fresh from the garden. Learn more at sacredblossomfarm.com. The Real Herb Market. Do you make herbal products for sale? At the Real Herb Market, we connect herbal makers like you with people who appreciate the power of natural herbal care. Become a seller at the Real Herb Market today. Visit them at therealherbmarket.com. Sometimes it takes a crisis to get us to really see the right path. Do or die, the wake-up call almost always leads us into a whole new adventure. The plants surely do celebrate when we join them. Today we're talking with Leslie Shalduha, practicing herbalist at Sassy Llama Apothecary, makers of simple everyday herbal products, about getting up after crises as has awakened you to the herbal path. Now here are your hosts.
I'm Candace Hunter.
I'm Patrick Hunter. And welcome to Real Herbalism Radio.
Hey Leslie, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, I'm so excited to see you here because, honestly, I love your products, but I absolutely love that llama. I love that.
It's kind of the centerpiece for sure, is that cute little llama.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I like the llama too.
Yes.
He makes me laugh.
Exactly.
Or she.
I always think of the llama as being a she.
Oh.
Is the llama a she or a he? Do you know?
She's a she.
She. Yeah.
Or does it prefer
I was
different
looking for
pronoun?
a feminine bent.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I know you're particular to llamas because of your fiber arts.
Love of all things fiber, especially llamas, alpaca. Oh, it's a dream to spin with. But we're not here to chit chat about llamas, are we?
No.
I want to know: did you start off with herbs as being like your thing? Because as far as I understood, the answer is kind of no.
No, it is not. I didn't really even know what plants were. I don't think for a long time. There was stuff, I guess, around me, but I never was interested in gardening, or I didn't have any concept of where food in the grocery store came from. I didn't even know what a farmer's market was until maybe 16, 17 years ago. So I didn't, I did spend my life growing up beside a river. So I knew that I liked to go and sit beside the river and watch the water flow. And I had a special tree I hung out with, but I didn't have any bigger idea of what that was.
Right.
Of what that meant.
So It was like a whole different life. And then life smacked you upside the head and said, hey, right?
It did. It said, we're going to take you on a different path. So I was 29 years old and 9 months pregnant with my beautiful daughter, who's now 16. And I had congestive heart failure. And that was a shock on many different levels, that it could happen to somebody that young, first of all, that it was even a thing.
Right.
And it was, pretty terrible. Life flight and the whole scene, although I don't remember that. They knocked me out, so I wasn't aware of what was happening. But
that might be good, actually.
Yeah. And,
I don't
and that's
know.
why they do it. So
home.
that people don't have that trauma, is to minimize the trauma when you're going through something like that. And so as I came out of that and started recovering and this new life of now I have heart disease. What is that? What does that mean? What do I eat? What don't I eat? And that was a big education and kind of funny, really, how hard it was for me to adjust to that new way of being. I love hamburgers. I still love hamburgers. They're still my favorite food. But while I was pregnant, I went to the local diner and had a bacon cheeseburger every day for lunch, with my mom. She was at work. And I still eat them a lot. I'm not saying you shouldn't eat bacon burgers, but and fast food and junk food, and it was just food to me. I didn't have any concept that there was anything better or different. And so when I first came home, they put me on a low fat, low sodium diet, and I didn't know what that meant. But
oh Lord, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. Even when you've been like all health food person, that's a tough diet.
French fries.
Oh
no, nothing.
Oh.
Luckily, I lived with a chef. My daughter's father is a chef, and so he was on board to help me figure out, good food that didn't have those things in it. And so he fed me, and I was on medicine that I had to have my blood tested every week for whatever it was, clotting or whatever.
Yeah.
And so they tested my blood quite often, and my doctor called me one day and said, there's a problem with your sodium. And I said, well, you told me not to eat sodium, to do low sodium. And he said, low, not no. You have to have some sodium in your diet.
Yes. Yeah, because your body can't like transmit signals without some.
And I didn't know that.
Wow.
I mean, who knows that?
Right.
So that was the first big, whoa. Wow.
Yeah.
So it's like, give me a bag of chips. I was so happy that I could still eat some sodium. And it just was a huge awakening of what else do we need? Why can't I eat dark leafy greens right now? Why?
Right.
Not that I wanted to, but because I couldn't, I wanted to know
why. Yeah. Because they're supposed to be so healthy for you, right?
Yeah. Like, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And so, I just started asking questions and looking at food and thinking about what was going in my body, because now I've got this tiny little baby looking at me, I got to stick around and take care of her. And if you can have heart failure at 29 when you're otherwise completely healthy, there's a lot of stuff out there.
Yeah.
So that was the beginning of me deciding I was going to do everything I could to just be healthy and strong. So
that's huge. Yeah. You got a frontline education, fast education.
I did. Yeah, it sure did. And it started to become fun after a while. The chef in the family taught me how to cook, which I had cooked previous to that. My mom taught me how to cook, but he taught me how to cook.
Yeah,
like the understanding of how food works together. How flavors go together and spices, and to think differently about food. I grew up with Hamburger Helper and canned vegetables and things like that. So all of a sudden I'm looking at a carrot. And I'm like,
now what do I do with it?
Do with that?
And those that beginning to understand how flavors work together and how the foods, like the food types, work together, which things you combine and they go really well together, and which things maybe you combine them and it's less healthy or you feel less good afterwards. That's powerful medicine right there.
Very powerful.
Yeah.
And it was a long time before I knew that was medicine. Right. Really, it was just one day I looked back and I was like, whoa, I've learned so much and I've changed so much. And I think that's an important piece to know, is that sometimes it can be overwhelming to think about, I need to change how I eat. I need to change my diet. I need to change the quality of my diet, whatever road somebody's going to take.
Yeah.
A lot of times the failure comes from being overwhelmed from it.
Oh yeah.
Because it's not doable.
Diet is intimate. Our first real nurturing that we receive in the world is all about food. It's all about food at so many levels. I know when I was a kid, food was a comfort. You fall down and hurt your knee and you get your hug, and that's important. But there's also the cookie, and we, we grow up and we attach so many emotional pieces to our food and our diet and who we are. There's culture around lots of different types of foods, including like barbecue and all of that. I mean, there's these cultures. And diet isn't just diet. It's not just the food you put in your body. It's so much more.
It certainly is. And that was what you're saying there about food being intimate was a huge, another one of those salt awakenings for me is, of course, as I started changing how I looked at the world and how I looked at food and what I put in my body, I wanted to share that with my people, my family, my friends, and they didn't want to hear it. No. I was a bit on the passionate side. So, what it did was like kind of turn people off. It kind of, offended people. And I was just trying to be helpful and share what I had learned. But you can't do it so baldly with food because it is so personal. For all of us, it's personal.
Yes. Yeah, that is.
How do we, find ways to come together and it not be scary and overwhelming and all that kind of stuff. I don't have the answer yet. I'm still working on that. And I'm fine to work on it for the rest of my life. I don't want that to ever stop being interesting to me.
Yeah.
But that point of that was that, that it's overwhelming. And so people then stop trying. Yeah. Because it's easier to walk away from something.
Yes.
And so I was able to look back and see that I made a lot of changes, but over a long period of time. Mm-hmm. And so my advice became to people that were interested in it, pick one aspect that you want to change. If you want to switch to organic and you don't want to empty out your whole pantry and go buy all new food because that's crazy expensive and crazy. Yeah. Choose one thing. For me and my family, the first thing was milk, which I have never been a milk fan, but I had a baby, an infant, a toddler or whatever, by the time I came to that. And I wanted her to have quality milk. So I just started buying organic milk, just that one thing. And then before long, that was normal and natural. And I could think about the next thing I wanted to focus on changing what kind I bought. And just one foot in front of the other, really.
Well, I mean, honestly, that's how the plants teach us to do it. They don't say do everything all at once right here, right now. They say, well, let's just nudge this a little bit. Let's do that a little bit. What if we kind of look at the view from over here for a while? Let's get comfortable with that.
That's really a nice way of saying that. We've got this lifetime, this whole lifetime. So we don't want to fix it all for tomorrow, because then what are we going to do?
Right.
Let's nudge and take a little few steps here, a little few steps there. And one day you look back and you've accomplished those things. And then you're like, okay, now what? It's always, there's always something more.
Yeah.
To do and
the slow, gentle change is usually the lasting change. The fast, instant, overnight remake or makeovers or whatever, that doesn't last. Might look great for 10 minutes, but if you haven't changed the underlying habits and the values and the psychological programming and stories attached to it, you'll just go back to the old way.
That's why most New Year's resolutions don't pan out after the first month.
Right.
People are not willing to make the long-term habitual change that they need to do. And that's, I think, why you always get blowback from people when you're saying, hey, you need to do this for your diet, you need to do that for your diet. Because those are all long-term changes, not just overnights for many people, especially when they're not confronted with a crisis medicine where it's like, you're going to die.
Yeah.
So you have to make the change. And I think a lot of people want to live in that, sheltered world that it's I'm not going to die. I'm good. See, it's not happening to me.
Yeah.
And yours happened at 29, but many people face that problem in their late 50s.
Sure.
Yeah.
So it's always about, like you said, it's so personal, and no one wants to make those changes. And making habitual changes is really hard. Really hard.
I think it's okay for us all to recognize that and say it is hard. So at what point do we where can we meet it? Where can we meet it to move forward?
Yeah.
So the food for me was that major thing. Then I started watching the documentaries. I watched the Super Size Me and blew me away. I had Lord Almighty.
Yeah, especially after being a aficionado of fast food.
Right. It was very shock. And I remember I was laying in it was January, so I was cuddled into bed with my daughter, who was like 8 months old or something. And the room was dark and warm and cozy, and I'm watching this show going,
yeah,
what? My life just exploded again. What am I going to do?
Yeah.
So I stopped eating fast food. Like, I just stopped doing that. And
that in itself is a hard change to make.
It was.
That is a really tough change.
Yeah, Candace made it early on as well, and I hadn't as much. I had rules. If we're on a road trip, totally legit. Where else are you going to find? But day in and day out, I typically don't. My guilty pleasure is a certain breakfast sandwich from a certain restaurant, and I only do that when we're going golfing in the morning. Then I'll do it. But I've got these specific rules, and I don't deviate from them.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with having those rules. I know my family thinks I'm crazy because I have a lot of rules, but it helps to keep me steady on the course. It was a long time before my mouth forgot that certain sandwich from that certain fast food restaurant.
Oh yeah.
It was the point where I would want it, and maybe I even would buy one, but then my hand wouldn't pick it up. Like, what's happening here? How is this?
I never like the way I would feel if I broke the rule.
Yeah.
If it's a golf day, I'm golfing already, so it's already fun and it just goes through. But if I just did it on I'm just going to have one today, and then I eat it and I'm like, this is not, it was good going in, but
it wasn't worth it. Yeah.
The high is over.
Yeah.
The Practical Herbalist is your source for info on herbs. With over 1,000 articles, including recipes, monographs, home remedies, and homesteading ideas, using plant-based techniques, you're sure to find inspiration and support for your own connection to the plants. Learn more at thepracticalherbalist.com. How did you, go from, relearning diet, food, all of these things to, improve yourself, improve your family, and then to move into herbalism? I mean, it's somewhat tangential, but you're a self-proclaimed, I don't know what plants are. So how did you go to that?
I know. It was, this is shocking to me as well. I lived on about a 30-acre blueberry farm at this time in my life as well. And since I had nothing to do but recover from my experience, as spring started rolling around, I started, spending more time outdoors and looking around. And I thought, I'm going to plant an herb garden. So I did. I just made myself a little 10 by 10 garden with a little fence around it. And I think I probably went to whatever local nursery there was. I don't even remember how I got the plants. I mean, it's terrible. I don't know. They just got plants. I don't know how.
They find you. Honestly, they find you once they realize you're willing to really wake up. Once they get that clue that you're she's waking up, we will find her.
So somehow they did. And so I planted my first herb garden, and the only plants that I remember being in there were borage and chocolate mint.
Nice.
And I remember borage because, this was probably literally the start of it for me. One day I was out in the garden and the borage was in full bloom, and of course it's beautiful.
Oh yeah.
And I looked over and I saw, some of their flowers hang upside down.
Yeah.
So I look over and there's a big fat bee asleep upside down, just hanging
there.
upside down in this flower. And it was kind of like the whole, what?
How magical.
What is happening there? Look at that beautiful. And I just fell in love with that vision. And then chocolate mint was the other thing, which I really love. I didn't understand mint and what it does. So it was quite a shock what it did.
Yeah. So you have 10 feet of mint.
Yeah.
So, and gardening is still not my strong suit, but I've certainly had a lot of fun over the years learning about gardening. And so I thought, okay, well, I'm going to bring in some hay at the end of the season, put some hay down over my, put a blanket on it, put it to bed for the winter. That's, I don't know, maybe somebody told me to do that. Maybe I don't remember. But I put in so much that I actually killed everything, including the mint.
Well, that's impressive because it's not easy to
get
mint to stop.
So it was like...
Yeah, it was like a bale of hay.
I'm not sure, but it was definitely, it's like, wow,
okay.
So I started looking at what can I do with these plants that are in my garden, I suppose this was 2004, so the internet was probably around, although where I lived, it wasn't something that was easy to get. So I might have honestly just gone and got books from the library. What do I do with a sage leaf? And what do I do with mint? And I started just putting it in hot water, not even brewing it or steeping it, just putting the leaf right in hot water, the leaf, to see what happened, to see what it tasted like.
Nice.
So that was kind of fun. And I made some salves, which I shudder to think now. What? I don't know what I did to him. My father visited once and he said that whatever it was, it made his wound worse. And I was like,
whoops.
I don't know if that's true, but thinking back on it now with a little bit of wisdom, I don't know what happened. But and then there was I joined a group of ladies, and this is in southeastern Ohio. Appalachia is where I'm from. And so there was a group of ladies that were in their 60s, maybe even 70s, honestly. And they met once a month, and they chose an herb of the month. Nice. And they went to, somebody's house. Somebody hosted each month, and we would, they let me join their group. So that was really nice.
Nice.
And whatever the herb of the month was, the person hosting would make lunch and or tea centered around that herb.
Nice.
And then we would print off whatever the information was about that plant. And then we would just sit around the table and read out loud. We would read the paper and share what we did.
That is a delightful way to work with herbs.
It was fun. Yeah. I mean, I was I had a little baby, and I was sort of, I was out in the boonies. I didn't have a social world or whatever, and I was still recovering. And so it was my once a month, somebody took the baby, and I went out to do.
It's like a getaway.
Herb stuff. And that was probably the second phase for me, like seeing their interest and coming together and fellowship in that way and having whatever food it was. And we went once to an herb show down in Marietta at some fancy mansion, like a field trip,
Nice.
And I remember when I had it at my house, it was summer, and I prepared cold cantaloupe soup.
Ooh.
I think it had basil in it. And so that was the thing I made for lunch. Yeah, was cold. And it was mind-blowingly delicious and plus good for you, like in so many ways. And it was very exciting. I was very proud to host the ladies, and So I did that with them for probably a year or so.
Nice.
I moved to another town and we kind of lost touch, but that was a really awesome way to raise my interest. One of the ladies, she kept her essential oils in the refrigerator.
Yeah.
And so I still do that. I don't even know if you should but she was an older, it just seemed like a folk thing. I should not.
It helps to slow the oxidation levels, or the oxidizing of the essential oils, which means that keep their medicinal properties longer. Well, so that's that was a very wise woman.
Nice. That was one thing I kept out of it, was like, okay, they're all in the fridge. So
yeah.
So nice. What was the catalyst to move from culinary herbs to more medicinal herbs? Not that, basil, rosemary, thyme,
sure.
But those are the things that we always think of as culinary herbs. What was the thing you think?
I think it was, I moved from Ohio out here to Oregon. And
like many of us do.
Like so many of us do, yeah.
For sure. And moved out to boring Oregon.
Well, they must have really good sales literature to get you to their town.
Here I am in boring Oregon, and I lived in I moved out here for a man, and we lived in a beautiful home up on top of a hill, like isolated. I mean, just at the bottom of the hill kind of was civilization, but we had it was a very private property. And I started gardening up there too, nice. Putting in a vegetable garden, of course. Again, I don't know why, because gardening's not my strong suit, but it just seemed like I should. And my herb garden, and started going and buying whatever herbs were available. And here in Oregon, there's a lot more variety than I ever saw in Ohio.
Oh, yeah.
So I just picked plants that looked cool. I still didn't understand what any of them did. And after a little while, I started researching how can I learn more officially. I wanted to say that I'd had some education behind me so that people would start taking me a little more serious. And which really stinks that I felt that way, but I did. And so I went to a school in Portland. It's called Vital Ways, Portland Herbal School.
Yeah.
Christopher Smaka, Smaka, is the guy that runs it. And so I did, they go quite far with their training. They do to practitioner level.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in being that kind of an herbalist, but I did attend the first 2 years of the program.
Nice.
And the first one, was just a real basic thing. And that one opened my eyes in a lot of ways. And that's where the medicinal comes in. I started thinking about it in that way, even though I'd kind of been thinking about it without knowing I was thinking about it in terms of, combining these things with food as flavor. I learned that there was, even more than that.
Right. They teach like an energetic Western style herbalism that has energetic and Ayurvedic approach or underlying foundation.
I don't remember the Ayurvedic very much, but the energetic was definitely there for sure. And I did the whole first year, and it was really incredible. I loved it. The second year, I was partially into it. With a family emergency, I had to step away. And so then it was the next year that I went back to finish it. So it was a little bit interrupted, but I did get the two years in ultimately. And that's when it became serious for me. Nice. It became less of a hobby, backyard experimenting, and more of a, I want to do this.
So it kind of turns out that it was a really good thing that you felt you needed to be taken a little more seriously, because it got you through the next door on the path, essentially.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So
it was a great experience. And I have a firm belief in, challenges are not challenges, they're just opportunities. And my mom raised me with the motto, where there's a will, there's a way. And I don't think she expected me to take it quite so seriously. It really, really guides how I go through life. And, you see something, a roadblock of some sort, we just got to figure out how to work around it.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it's going to end up like you want, but that process and journey and adventure of finding your way around, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, and a lot of times what you thought you wanted, after you get there, you find out it wasn't really, what you ended up getting is actually better than what you thought you wanted.
Almost always.
Yes.
And it turns out that what interests me the most about herbs is medicine making. I have a really creative person inside of me that's not artistic. I can't show that in traditional artistic ways like drawing or painting or whatever.
Yeah.
But it turns out I can show that through what I can do in the kitchen. So making, and that's not just making food, that's making the products too, making my salve or blending my teas. I have a whole product list just waiting for me to find a commercial kitchen, and it'll be pretty exciting.
But, that is exciting. Yeah.
It feeds my soul.
Yeah,
and so it is what I do.
There is a lot of art to formulating. I mean, like a tea, it needs to taste good, even if it's medicine.
Sure.
So it's still, like, otherwise people won't drink it. I mean, Patrick will attest to that, because I've made a lot of medicine he won't drink.
Well, that's part of making it simple and practical for everybody.
Yeah.
Is I'm willing to drink a lot of things because I look at it as good for me, right? Like, take your cod liver oil from back in the day when it's like it tasted terrible, but you just did it because it was good for you. I think of food and herbs as vitamins and minerals and strengthening. And so sometimes it doesn't taste good to normal people.
Right.
But I'm going to drink it anyway. So I do want to find a way to make different blends palatable to the people that aren't as interested in the whys or the hows, or what is the word I'm looking for? What it's going to do for you.
Yeah. Making yourself do what's good for you sometimes is not enough. Sometimes you need to soften the blow a little.
Right. Like, I really dislike beets. I wish I didn't. They're so good for you. They're so awesome.
Yeah, Patrick's there. He's cheering.
Hate beets. No,
but I want to like them.
I like them pickled.
Yes.
Oh,
I can handle them pickled.
You're above me then.
I can and it took many, many, many years for that palate to finally develop that I will eat pickled beets. But oh my God, I hate beets. And Candace loves beets.
Yes.
So
I do.
I get beets in my diet because she cooks a lunch and salad, beet.
And if you want to sit there and pick them out, you're going to have to figure out what to do with them. The dog will eat them. Jasper would eat them. He loves beets.
I'm with you. Now, I can handle the golden beets and the variegated beets.
The chayugas.
The chayuga beets. Those deep red, stain my fingers, bad boys. I don't like them.
I feel you. It's like, so even being the person I am, knowing what they can do, I can't get them down. Yeah. I get the people that are like, I can't drink that tea. I just can't.
Yeah.
I'd love to be able to, but I can't. So let's find a way to make it delicious and fun and yummy.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I've tried many ways to get Patrick to drink a variety of different teas, and I will admit that some of them are pretty hideous. Some of the teas have been pretty horrible.
I mean, if you make them taste like scotch, I'll drink it all day.
Right. So bad.
Then for me, but okay.
Yeah, whatever it takes,
So I've got to ask you, what is the story behind the llama?
It's kind of fun. My daughter and I are driving somewhere. I don't know where we were. And there were llamas. And we admire llamas. They're, of course, very cute. And
they're adorable.
Oh, yeah. And so as we were driving, we were talking about our life and our future and our dreams and things like that. And we look over and neither one of us can remember who said it, but somebody said, now that is a sassy llama. And we both went,
that's
it. Like there's something in our life going to be the sassy llama, like whatever form that takes. It's going to be a cafe or it's going to be, whatever it is. We were still at the beginning of our dreaming at that point. And so, but it just stuck like crazy. And the next thing I know, I'm getting llama gifts and llama notebooks and llama sweaters and llama earrings. And so, yeah. And we're kind of sassy, my daughter and I together. We have a lot of fun. And so it felt like a perfect mix. And I also am a fiber, like I'm generally 95% of the time covered head to toe in wool. I just love that fabric. So then as I rebranded my company a couple of years ago, I wanted an artist to be able to portray the sassy llama in the way that I wanted. It turned out to be very hard to find a person that I guess understood me. It was interesting. It took me a year. And then finally I found an artist I had known for a long time. So that was interesting.
Nice. Yeah.
And we sat and I told her, what I was looking for, how I felt about my business. And she just kind of sat there and sketched it out and it ended up being just perfect. Just a little bit of sass on the llama on my logo.
Yeah. I love your logo. I really love it. It makes me smile every single time.
Yeah, she did beautiful work. Her name's Brecca Taft, and she's a beautiful artist. Yeah.
How do you spell that?
Brekka, and then last name Taft.
Like it sounds.
Mm-hmm.
It's just an interesting name.
Right? It is, yeah.
How can people find you and your products?
Well, I've got a Facebook and an Instagram, both under Sassy Llama Apothecary. I have right now just a Square site set up, so I'm not sure what it is, but if you just type in Sassy Llama Apothecary Square site, I think it comes up. Or on my Insta and Facebook, there's a link directly to it.
Okay.
And so my phone number is on there as well, and email. I kind of operate old school. I'm not very fancy or real techie as yet, but I'm out here.
Great. Is there anywhere that people can get your products in Oregon locally?
Not yet. I'm working on that currently. Okay. So just dropped off a bag of samples at a place today. So I'm hopeful.
Exciting.
Well, as always,
put an herb on it.
Did you say it?
She did. She did. That's why I was
for you though.
That's why I went just a little bit slow because I was
have to go a little quieter because I didn't hear.
Do it again. 1, 2, 3.
As always, put an herb
on it.
There you go.
The statements made about herbs and products on this podcast have not been evaluated by the United States Food and Drug Administration, FDA, and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease. All information provided on this podcast or any affiliated websites is for informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for advice from your physician or other healthcare professional. You should not use the information on this podcast and its affiliated websites for a diagnosis or treatment of any health problem. Always consult with a healthcare professional before starting any new vitamins, supplements, diet, or exercise program before taking any medication, or if you have or suspect you might have a health problem. Any testimonials, questions, or case studies are based on individual results and do not constitute a guarantee that you will achieve the same results.